Hello fellow gardeners and welcome back to the Humus Heritage. I'm thrilled to have you here today because we're about to explore something that might completely change the way you think about feeding your plants. If you've been struggling with lackluster growth despite pouring bag after bag of fertilizer into your garden beds, or if you're simply curious about more natural, sustainable approaches to plant nutrition, then settle in because what I'm about to share could transform your entire gardening journey. Forget everything you thought you knew about plant nutrition. What if I told you that the most powerful plant food isn't sitting on a store shelf in a fancy bag with bold promises, but could be brewing quietly in a bucket in your garage? Today, I'm going to show you how one simple ingredient that's probably already in your pantry, fermented in a surprisingly straightforward way, can unleash incredible growth and vitality in your garden naturally, without relying on synthetic chemicals. The hidden problem with conventional fertilizers. Let me ask you something. Have your plants been struggling despite your best efforts and regular fertilizer applications? You're definitely not alone in this frustration. Thousands of gardeners find themselves trapped in a cycle of dependency, constantly adding more and more synthetic fertilizers to their soil, only to see diminishing returns season after season. But here's what most people don't realize about those convenient bags of conventional fertilizer. They're often creating more problems than they're solving. When you rely heavily on synthetic fertilizers, you're essentially bypassing the natural systems that make soil truly alive and self-sustaining. These chemical formulations can lead to nutrient lockout, where certain minerals become unavailable to plants despite being present in the soil. The salts in synthetic fertilizers can build up over time, creating toxic conditions that actually harm beneficial soil organisms. Even worse, these fertilizers often provide a quick hit of nutrition that encourages rapid, weak growth rather than the strong, resilient plants we all want. The result is a garden that becomes increasingly dependent on external inputs, with soil that grows more lifeless and compacted with each passing season. Imagine instead a garden that thrives without this constant chemical intervention, where the soil itself becomes a living factory of nutrition, continuously feeding your plants exactly what they need, when they need it. Unlocking nature's secret, the power of fermented cornmeal. What if the secret to creating vibrant, healthy plants was sitting in your pantry all along? It might sound too simple to be true, but fermented cornmeal represents one of nature's most elegant solutions to plant nutrition. The magic lies not in the cornmeal itself, but in what happens during the fermentation process. When you ferment cornmeal, you're essentially creating a thriving culture of beneficial microorganisms, including bacteria, yeasts, and other microscopic allies that plants absolutely love. These microorganisms do something remarkable when introduced to your garden soil. They begin breaking down organic matter and minerals, making nutrients far more accessible to plant roots than any synthetic fertilizer could achieve. But the benefits go far beyond simple nutrition. Fermented cornmeal introduces entire communities of beneficial microbes that colonize the root zone, creating a protective barrier against harmful pathogens and helping plants develop stronger immune systems. This fermented mixture feeds the soil food web, encouraging earthworms, beneficial nematodes, and mycorrhizal fungi to flourish. Think of it as inoculating your garden with billions of tiny workers that never clock out, continuously improving soil structure, nutrient cycling, and plant health from the ground up. The fermentation process also produces organic acids and enzymes that help break down compacted soil particles, improving drainage and root penetration in ways that, honestly, no amount of tilling could accomplish. Creating your own garden elixir, the simple process. So, are you ready to ditch the chemicals and create your own powerful garden elixir? The beautiful thing about fermented cornmeal is that it requires just a few simple ingredients and, really, very little active work on your part. You'll need cornmeal, which can be any variety, though organic is preferable if you want to avoid pesticide residues, clean water, ideally dechlorinated by letting tap water sit out overnight, and optionally, a small amount of molasses or sugar to jumpstart the fermentation process. To begin, mix approximately 2 cups of cornmeal with 5 gallons of water in a clean bucket. If you're using molasses as an activator, add about a tablespoon to the mixture. This sweet addition gives the beneficial microbes an immediate food source, encouraging rapid multiplication. Stir the mixture thoroughly to ensure the cornmeal is well distributed throughout the water, then cover the bucket loosely with a cloth or lid that allows air exchange while keeping debris out. Place your bucket in a warm location, ideally between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, where it can ferment undisturbed. The fermentation process typically takes between 5 and 10 days, depending on temperature and conditions. You'll know fermentation is occurring when you see bubbles forming on the surface and detect a pleasantly sour, yeasty smell, similar to rising bread dough or beer. Check your mixture daily, giving it a gentle stir to incorporate oxygen and prevent any surface mold from forming. The liquid will gradually become cloudy and may develop a layer of foam, which is perfectly normal and indicates active microbial growth. When the mixture smells pleasantly fermented without any putrid or moldy odors, it's ready to use. If at any point you notice black or colored mold developing or detect a truly foul smell, discard the batch and start fresh, as these are signs of contamination by undesirable organisms. Application methods for maximum impact. Once your fermented cornmeal is ready, you have several effective ways to deliver its benefits to your garden ecosystem. The most straightforward method is using it as a soil drench, which means diluting the fermented liquid with additional water at a ratio of about 1 part fermented mixture to 3 parts fresh water, then pouring it directly onto the soil around your plants. This application method delivers beneficial microbes directly to the root zone, where they can immediately begin colonizing and improving the soil environment. So, you'll want to apply this diluted mixture every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the growing season, focusing on the area beneath the plant's drip line where feeder roots are most active. Another powerful application method is using fermented cornmeal as a foliar spray. Strain the liquid through cheesecloth or a fine mesh to remove any solid particles that might clog your sprayer, then dilute it further with water at a ratio of 1 part fermented liquid to 5 parts water. Apply this spray to plant leaves in early morning or late evening when stomata are open and temperatures are cooler. The beneficial microbes can colonize leaf surfaces, providing protection against foliar diseases, while the nutrients are absorbed directly through the leaves. This method is particularly effective for plants showing signs of nutrient deficiency or stress. Alright, so here's the deal. Don't discard the solid cornmeal residue left after straining your fermented mixture. This material is incredibly valuable as a soil amendment. You can spread it around the base of established plants or work it lightly into the top few inches of soil in your garden beds. It's really that simple. Now, as this material breaks down, it continues feeding beneficial soil organisms while slowly releasing nutrients. Many gardeners report witnessing remarkable transformations in their gardens within just a few weeks of beginning regular applications. You'll notice the plants develop deeper green foliage, stronger stems, increased flowering, and notably improved resistance to both pests and diseases. It's pretty amazing what a little cornmeal can do. And, the difference becomes even more pronounced over time as the soil biology becomes increasingly robust and self-sustaining. Building a self-sustaining garden ecosystem is like the ultimate goal. The real magic of fermented cornmeal extends far beyond simple plant nutrition. What you're actually doing is rebuilding the living soil ecosystem that makes truly healthy gardens possible. When you feed the soil biology consistently with fermented cornmeal applications, you're investing in long-term soil health that pays dividends season after season. The beneficial microorganisms establish permanent colonies that continue multiplying and working even between applications, creating an increasingly resilient growing environment. It's like setting up a thriving community beneath your feet. Over time, gardens maintained with fermented cornmeal and other natural amendments develop remarkable characteristics. The soil becomes darker, richer, and more crumbly, with improved water retention during dry periods and better drainage during wet spells. Plants grown in this living soil develop more extensive root systems that can access water and nutrients more efficiently, leading to increased drought resistance. The diverse microbial community provides natural pest and disease suppression, reducing or even eliminating the need for chemical interventions. And, perhaps most exciting, the nutrient density of produce grown in biologically active soil tends to be higher, so your harvests aren't just more abundant but also more nutritious. This is truly the future of gardening, a return to working with nature rather than against it, creating ecosystems that become more productive and self-sufficient with each passing year. You're not just growing plants, you're cultivating a living soil system that will continue improving and supporting healthy growth for years to come. The journey from chemical dependency to biological abundance begins with simple steps like fermented cornmeal, but it leads to gardens that practically take care of themselves. If this video has opened your eyes to new possibilities for your garden, I'd love to hear about your experiences. Please subscribe to the Humus Heritage channel so you don't miss future videos where we'll continue exploring natural, sustainable approaches to creating abundant gardens. Share this video with fellow gardeners who might benefit from discovering fermented cornmeal, and drop a comment below telling me about your own experiments with this method. Together, we're building a community of gardeners who understand that the healthiest plants come from the healthiest soil. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.